We got a final in the 3:05 early game here on Sunday, game one of this series between the Hawks and the Heat, and it was a no contest. 115-91 does not even begin to tell the story of how dominant the Heat were here in game one. Atlanta, at no point in this game from the opening tip, had any question about who was going to win this ball game. It was Duncan Robinson, that young man right there, leading the way with 27 points for Miami, 8 of 9 from three-point range, and 1-0 is your series score. Here's a look at that box score. Danilo Gallinari leading the way for the Hawks with 17 points. And if you cue into Trae Young's numbers, well, 8 points, 4 assists, 6 rebounds, likely not going to get it done for Atlanta star. In studio with NBA insider Bill Reiter here to break down game one between these two. The question coming into this series was, is Miami a true one? And is Atlanta far better than your everyday 8? I think we got an answer that Miami's your 1, and Atlanta is, in fact, your 8. Your initial takeaway from this matchup was what, Bill?
I'm 100% with you that Miami is a championship contender. I've got some money on them to go the whole way, and you saw the complete package. They've got depth. Different guys can step up. Duncan Robinson was a start. Jimmy Butler's the best player on the team over the long haul of this postseason. They're great on offense, and they held this Hawks team to 91 points. They're extraordinary on defense. I'm not going to sell Atlanta yet, not as a winner of this series, but as a big-time challenge. But you noted it. Trae Young doesn't show up. Atlanta doesn't show up. That continues. There is no series.
Let's talk about Trae, because the complete opposite of Miami in that depth and scoring is that Atlanta is very reliant on their star. And the stat line that he put up here on Sunday is not going to win them any ball games. What did you see or not see out of Trae Young, a guy who has welcomed the moment in the past, who sort of embraces that role of the villain on the road, coming off a big winner in that play-in matchup against Cleveland and a crazy stat line? I mean, how surprised are you at how flat he fell here on Sunday?
Pretty surprised. The Miami Heat are a different kettle of fish. With all respect to the Cleveland Cavaliers, they will throw perimeter defender against you again and again and again. But it also, the other thing I think is the problem here, there's two ways for Atlanta to be successful. They're not going to hold the Miami Heat to 91 points, which is what Atlanta scored. They have to beat him with offense. That's mostly Trae Young. He'll probably figure it out. It's a guy who goes cold, who gets hot. I think he'll be okay in the series. But there are some games, if you go back to the Hawks this year, especially as they kind of figured it out, where Trae Young wasn't extraordinary, not as bad as he was on this evening, but where he had off nights. And what happened is Atlanta would start to move the basketball. They averaged 15 assists per game, but in games where Trae Young didn't shoot well, that they won, they'd have 25 or 30 assists. They only assisted on about half their field goals. When Trae Young is off, you've got to move the ball. You've got to make sure other guys hit shots so that Trae Young can't get doubled, so he can get in the groove, so he's not facing two great defenders, especially with this Miami team. Trae's got to play better, and it's really both. That Atlanta team has got to move the basketball, and Trae's got to get some help.
Fast break points were not there, transition offense, and like you said, those assists. The ball was stopping on every possession here for Atlanta. So you've sort of touched upon a number of the pressure points already, but what needs to change right now on the off day for this to look like a series coming down the stretch?
So it's bad news for Atlanta, not just the loss, but the fact they have to wait a few days, because now Trae Young just has to be thinking about this and focused on it. And maybe this will be the Trae Young that gets angry, that comes out and has something to prove, right? Bad out of hell. It's an oversimplification, but it's also true. Trae Young has to play well. He has to shoot well. He's got to be the guy, and he's got to put this team on his back. That's true in any series. If they were a 3 seed, which obviously they're not, that would have to be the case. There is no Clint Capella. John Collins is going to be a guy who's going to be extremely rusty. The person who's got to win this game is Trae Young. Trae Young has to come out and be the best player on the floor. And I think he is. I think he's the most talented basketball player in this series. But if Duncan Robinson is far surpassing you and what you're about, if you're Trae Young, you are in big trouble. Trae Young has got to come out, be better, take over. He's got to get better looks, and he's got to hit those shots.
He made one more basket than you here on Sunday, so that is not going to get it done. That as we look forward in this series, Miami sort of projecting them not to the next round, but against the rest of the East, which is a murderer's row this season. Pretty much everybody but Chicago and Toronto has some championship metal to them. You're going to have to see Philly. You're going to have to see Milwaukee. You're going to have to see Brooklyn or Boston. Like, there are some real heavy hitters out East. Is it time we start respecting Miami for who they are, that true number 1 seed?
It's been that way the entire time. Now, I'm not going to sell out Atlanta yet. I'm not betting on Atlanta, but if you want to, this is the time to do it. I think they're always going to lose this game. Absolutely, and I've said this again and again and again, but it's just historically true, and it's a great way to sort of look for some value. Teams that are in the top 10 in offensive and defensive rating over the last 40 years, those are the teams, minus a couple, literally two, that win NBA championships. There's only two in the East that fit that. One is Boston, the other is the Miami Heat. This is a team that made the finals a couple years ago. They had some slumps last year from some of those young guys like Tyler Hero and Duncan Robinson. Duncan Robinson was awesome in this game. I thought Jimmy Butler played really well. They show what they can do defensively, and I think they have an easier road. You're right. There is not an easy path in the Eastern Conference, but I'd rather go through the side of the bracket that the Heat are on.
No doubt.
Presumably have to go through Philadelphia, and I have my doubts about Philly as it gets more difficult, then have to go through some combination of Brooklyn or Boston and Milwaukee. The Heat are be taken seriously. It's hard to get there, but they can certainly win the whole thing.
When putting down a wager here on this series and on what lies beyond, when we look at this Atlanta team, you make a great point. If you think they can come back, now is the time to buy. And you can even be specific how many games you think they can get it done in. We were sort of having the conversation in the green room. They're not going to rattle off 4 straight, so you scratch off 5. Is it 6? Is it 7? You could throw a couple shekels down on each. But how many games do you see this series truly going if Miami is going to be the victor when it's all said and done?
Every time I bring up the point I'm about to bring up, I get an angry text message from a source at the Miami Heat. I used to cover the Miami Heat. So I mean, no disrespect, but if you think that it's going to be Atlanta, you go in 7. I don't think Game 7s have a huge home court advantage in general because there's so much momentum and there's so much fear. So it's who can step up to it. And you and I discussed this. Again, love that Miami Heat team, love that Miami Heat organization, love the fan base. They have great fans. They're just on South Beach at the bar. We have to reserve seats, so the arena's empty. It is. I've covered that team. The energy's not quite the same thing. I don't think Atlanta wins the series, but I'm not writing them off. And if Trae Young becomes Trae Young again, and if Atlanta's going to win, it would be in 7, which I think would get you a pretty good price.
Bill Reiter, good in every city, and let's keep it that way, all right?
I'm trying.
Let's take a look at that series schedule and what lies ahead for these two. It's only one game, but convincing win here, 115-91. At one point, it was a 30-point lead late in the second half. Game 2 coming your way Tuesday, as the Heat will have Monday to get right, and the Hawks will have Monday to figure some things out. 7:30 Eastern, Game 2 coming your way.
Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.